A poor, desperate boy decides to sell his only toy car to help his sick mother. What he never expected was that the buyer would be none other than the billionaire who abandoned her years ago. The alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning. Claire opened her eyes and felt that familiar ache in her back, which now seemed to spread throughout her entire body. She took a deep breath, counted to 3, and got up, ignoring how much effort it took. In the bathroom, she avoided looking at herself in the mirror. She knew what she would find: deep, dark circles, pale skin, and that look that tried to hide her fear. She brushed her teeth and pulled her brown hair into a simple ponytail. "Mom?" Liam's sleepy voice came from the hallway. Claire took a deep breath and put on her best smile before opening the door. "Good morning, my love. You're up early today." The 5-year-old boy was standing in the hallway, holding his blue blanket and rubbing his eyes. "I had a dream about Dad. He had a big blue car and took me out for ice cream. Why doesn't he ever come visit us?" Claire felt a familiar tightness in her chest. Liam had never met his father, but ever since he started preschool, the questions had become more frequent. "Let's get breakfast ready, okay?" In the kitchen of the modest apartment where they lived, Claire prepared cereal with milk for Liam. Suddenly, she felt a strong dizziness and had to hold onto the counter. Her vision blurred for a few seconds. "Mum, are you sick again?" Liam asked, noticing her distress. Claire forced a smile. "Just a little tired, my love." But it wasn't just fatigue, and Claire knew it. 3 months earlier, during a routine checkup, the doctor had found something that shouldn't be there: severe anemia, kidney trouble, and an autoimmune condition requiring immediate treatment. She needed expensive medication, but the rent was already overdue, and bills were piling up in the kitchen drawer. "You can stay home with me today," Claire said, deciding that taking a day off work wouldn't be the end of the world. "I'm thinking of taking the day to rest." But as the morning wore on, Claire felt worse and worse. After lunch, she could barely stand up. "Liam, Mommy's going to lie down for a little while, okay?" "It's hurting again, isn't it?" Liam asked, his big eyes full of concern. "Just a little," Claire lied. "You can watch your cartoons." In the bedroom, Claire lay down and closed her eyes. The medications the doctor had prescribed were running out, and she had no money to buy more. Without realizing it, she fell into a deep sleep. Liam waited a few minutes. Silently, he opened the bedroom door and saw that his mother had fallen asleep. Her face, even in slumber, looked tired and pained. Determined, the boy returned to his room, grabbed his precious blue remote-controlled car, the gift his mother had given him on his birthday, and put it in his backpack. Carefully, he left the apartment. Going down the stairs wasn't difficult. Liam was used to doing it every day with his mother. Outside, he decided to go to the nearby park, where there were always adults around. Maybe someone would want to buy his car. At the park, Liam approached some people, but no one took a 5-year-old trying to sell a toy seriously. Then he spotted a well-dressed man sitting on a bench, checking messages on his phone. Sir, he called, tugging on the sleeve of the expensive coat. "Do you want to buy my car? It's remote-controlled and super fast." The man, Ethan Miller, looked down in surprise. "No, thank you, kid. Where are your parents?" "Please, sir," Liam insisted, his eyes pleading. "My mom, Claire, is sick and needs medicine. I know she cries at night when she thinks I'm asleep." Ethan froze at hearing that name. Claire, a name he hadn't heard in years, a name he'd tried to forget. "Claire? What's her last name?" "Foster," Liam replied. "Claire Foster. She's the best mum in the world, but she's really sick and doesn't have money for medicine." Ethan felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. Claire Foster, the woman he had left 6 years ago when the relationship started getting too serious, the woman he had abandoned because he wasn't ready for a commitment. "How much do you want for the car?" he asked, his voice trembling. Liam thought for a moment. "100? Is that enough for Mom's medicine?" Ethan took several bills from his wallet, far more than 100, and handed them to the boy. "But you know what? I think you should keep your car." Liam's eyes widened at the sight of the money. "But don't you want the car?" "No. I want you to take care of your mom." Liam smiled, carefully putting the money into his pocket. "Thank you, sir. Now Mom will get better." Where do you live, Liam? You shouldn't be out here alone. I live over there, on the 3rd floor, Liam said, pointing to a building visible from the park. But you don't have to walk me. I know the way. I'm a big kid now. Liam waved goodbye and ran toward the building, holding the money and the car in his backpack tightly. Ethan stood there, watching the boy run off. Claire Foster. After all these years, fate was bringing him back into her life through her son. A son who wasn't his, but who had the same determination he'd seen so many times in Claire. A wave of guilt washed over him. He had abandoned her when things got serious, and now she was sick, alone, struggling to raise a child and buy medicine. Meanwhile, Liam returned home, carefully climbed the stairs, and went straight to his mother's bedroom. Claire was still asleep. The boy approached the bed and gently touched her arm. "Mom? Mom, wake up." Claire opened her eyes slowly, disoriented by the pain and sleep. "Liam? What is it, my love?" "Look, Mom," he said, taking the money from his pocket and placing it in her hand. "Now you can buy your medicine and get better." Claire looked at the money, confused. "Liam, what is this? Where did you get that money?" "I sold my blue car, Mom." "Well, actually, the man didn't want the car, but he gave me the money anyway. He said it's for you to get better." Claire's heart froze. "Liam, you went out by yourself, alone." "But Mom, it was to help you. You need medicine." Claire hugged her son tightly. "Never do that again, understand? It's very dangerous to go out alone." "Who was this man?" "He was a really nice man, dressed fancy. He was surprised when I said your name. He asked for your last name and everything." Claire felt a shiver. Someone who knew her name. "Did he tell you his name?" "I don't think so. He just asked where we lived, but I said I knew my way back alone. I wanted to surprise you." Claire looked at the money in her hands. It was enough to buy all the medicine she needed and pay the overdue rent. "Promise me you'll never leave by yourself again, even if it's to help me." "I promise. But now you're going to buy your medicine and get better, right?" Claire smiled, a mix of love, gratitude, and worry in her heart. "Yes, I will. But first, we need to talk about how dangerous it is to talk to strangers." Meanwhile, Ethan walked back to his car, his mind spinning. Claire Foster was ill, with a child to raise. He couldn't just ignore what had happened. He needed to do something. He needed to help, even if from a distance. He owed her that after everything. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Liam's face, the 5-year-old boy trying to sell his most precious toy to help his sick mother. A mother that he, Ethan, had abandoned years before. Sitting on the edge of the bed in his luxurious apartment overlooking the river that cut through the city, Ethan contemplated how his life had taken such a different path than Claire's. Everything about his place screamed success: expensive furniture, artwork on the walls, a Swiss watch on his wrist. He had achieved everything he wanted professionally. He was one of the youngest directors at Hartwell Enterprises, respected in the financial market, with substantial bank accounts and a promising future. But in that moment, looking out the window as the sun began to rise, Ethan felt that all that success was empty. "Claire is sick," he thought, remembering Liam's words. "And I left her all alone." Guilt was not a new feeling for Ethan. In the first months after leaving Claire, it consumed him. But over time, he learned to bury it somewhere deep, convincing himself he had made the right choice. He wasn't ready for a commitment. The relationship was getting too serious, too fast. Claire would be better off without him. Those were the lies he told himself until he believed them. Now those lies were crumbling. He made a decision. He needed to find out more about Claire's situation, about her illness, about what had happened to her over the years. He couldn't just ignore the encounter with Liam and go on with his life as if nothing had happened. Ethan called his assistant, cancelling all his meetings for the day. Then he picked up the phone again and hesitated. He still had Claire's old number saved in his contacts, though he'd never had the courage to call. His fingers hovered over her name on the screen, but he gave up. Claire probably wouldn't answer, and he wouldn't blame her. Instead, he decided to do something he never imagined he would: follow Liam. If the boy went out alone to sell toys in the park, He would probably do it again. It was risky, it was strange, but Ethan felt it was the only way to find Claire without just showing up at her door. At 2 in the afternoon, Ethan parked his imported car a block away from the park, where he had met Liam the day before. He wore simpler clothes than his usual suit, jeans, a t-shirt and a light jacket, trying not to draw attention. He felt like an intruder, a spy in forbidden territory, but he needed to see, he needed to understand. For almost 2 hours, he watched children playing, mothers chatting on benches and seniors feeding pigeons. There was no sign of Liam. He was about to give up when he saw the boy enter the park again, alone. His heart pounded. Liam seemed to be looking for someone. His eyes swept the park, and Ethan realized with a surge of emotion that the boy was probably looking for him. After all, he'd received more money than he ever imagined for his toy car. Before Ethan could decide whether to approach, Liam spotted him and ran over with a huge smile on his face. "Carman," Liam exclaimed, stopping in front of him, out of breath. "I knew I'd find you again." Ethan felt something strange in his chest, a mix of joy and guilt. "Hi, Liam," he said, crouching to the boy's level. "What are you doing here alone again?" "Does your mom know you're out?" Liam's smile faded a bit. "No, she was mad yesterday when she found out I left, but I had to find you. Mom said I couldn't accept so much money from a stranger. She wants to give it back." Ethan shook his head, feeling renewed respect for Claire. Even sick, even desperately needing the money, her sense of dignity remained intact. "Where's your mother now, Liam?" Ethan asked, worried about the boy being alone at the park again. "At home, resting. She took her new medicine today, but she said it makes her sleepy." "And she let you leave by yourself?" Liam looked at his own feet, embarrassed. "No, I snuck out again, but it's important. Will you come with me? Then Mom can thank you and return the money." Ethan felt his heart race. He was about to see Claire again after 6 years, the woman he had loved and abandoned, the woman who probably hated him now. "I'm not sure that's a good idea, Liam." "Please," the boy insisted, tugging on his hand. "Mom will be less mad at me if I bring you. She wants to meet you." What Liam didn't say, what he couldn't know, was that Claire already knew him very well. She knew his flaws, his cowardice, his inability to commit. And Ethan doubted she'd want to see him again, but looking at Liam's hopeful face, he couldn't say no. "All right," he finally agreed. "I'll go with you." The walk to Claire's apartment was short, but to Ethan it felt like an eternity. Each step brought him closer to a confrontation he had been avoiding for 6 years. What would he say to her? How would he explain his behavior? Was there any explanation that could justify abandoning someone he loved when things got tough? Liam chatted excitedly by his side, talking about his blue car, about how his mother had bought all the medicine she needed, about how happy he was she would get better now. "This is it," the boy said finally, stopping in front of a 3-story building with peeling paint and a simple entrance. It was an old building in a lower middle-class neighborhood, so different from the luxurious penthouse Ethan lived in. They climbed the stairs, Liam in front, practically hopping with excitement, Ethan behind, his stomach in knots. On the 3rd floor, they stopped in front of a door with the number 302 painted on it. "Mom," Liam called, knocking on the door. "Mom, look who I brought." Muffled footsteps sounded on the other side, and then the door opened. And there she was. Claire looked thinner than Ethan remembered, paler, with dark circles under her eyes. Her brown hair was tied in a simple ponytail, and she wore comfortable clothes, sweatpants and a cotton shirt. Even so, the sight of her made his heart skip a beat. For a moment, Claire didn't recognize him. Her gaze focused only on Liam. "Liam, where were you?" "I woke up and you were gone again. I was about to call the police." Then, slowly, her gaze shifted upward and met Ethan's, and the world seemed to freeze. The little color Claire had drained from her face. Her eyes widened, and her mouth fell open in shock. For a few seconds, she just stared at him, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "Ethan," she finally whispered, her tone a mix of disbelief and something else, something that sounded dangerously like hurt. "Hi, Claire," he replied, his voice husky. "It's been a while." The initial shock gave way to something harder, colder. Claire's eyes narrowed, and her posture changed, becoming more rigid, as if preparing for a blow. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice controlled, but Ethan could feel the anger in it. "I met Liam at the park yesterday," he explained, feeling awkward, exposed under her stare. "He offered me his toy car, and He stopped, unsure how to continue. "It was you." Understanding dawned on Claire's face. "You gave him all that money." Before Ethan could answer, Liam interjected, "Mom, this is the car man. He wanted to meet you." Claire shot a look at her son, then back at Ethan. "Liam, go inside and head to your room, please," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But Mom, now, Liam." The boy looked from Claire to Ethan, confused by the tension between them, but obeyed, entering the apartment with reluctant steps. As soon as Liam disappeared down the hallway, Claire stepped out into the hall, partially closing the door behind her. Her face was pale with anger. "How dare you?" she hissed, keeping her voice low so Liam wouldn't hear. "How dare you just show up like this after all these years?" Ethan swallowed hard. "Claire, I know this seems crazy, but I swear I didn't plan any of it. I really did run into Liam at the park yesterday. He was trying to sell his car, said you were sick, and you decided that after 6 years, now was a good time to come back," she interrupted, her hands trembling slightly. "What do you want, Ethan? To ease your conscience? To feel better about abandoning me when I needed you most?" Each word cut like a knife, and Ethan had no answers to give. He just stood there, staring at the woman he had loved and left behind. "I only wanted to help," he finally said, the words inadequate for the gulf he had created. "Help?" Claire let out a bitter laugh. "Where was your help when I needed it most? Where were you when I had to rebuild my life from scratch? When I had to work 2 jobs while raising a child alone?" Ethan lowered his head, guilt consuming him from within. "I'm sorry, Claire. I know that means nothing now. But I'm sorry for everything. You're right. It means nothing." Her voice was loaded with hurt. "I want you to take your money back and leave my life. We don't need your charity." Claire turned away, entering the apartment and returning seconds later with an envelope in her hand. "Here it is," she said, holding it out to Ethan. "Every cent you gave, Liam. I haven't touched it." Ethan looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Claire, please. I know I owe you. Please let me help. Liam told me about your medicines, about you being sick." "That's none of your business," she cut him off, still holding out the envelope. "I'm dealing with it. I've been dealing with everything on my own for 6 years. I can continue." At that moment, the door opened wider, and Liam appeared, his large eyes full of confusion. "Mom, why are you mad at the car man?" Claire closed her eyes briefly, as if summoning patience, then knelt down to his level. "I'm not mad, my love. I'm just returning his money because we can't accept it." "But why?" Liam insisted. "Didn't you say we needed money for medicine?" "And for the rent." Claire's face flushed with embarrassment, and she gave Ethan a quick glance before turning back to her son. "Yes, but we can't accept money from strangers, remember? We'll figure it out, like we always do." Liam looked at Ethan, his innocent eyes holding a surprising wisdom for his age. "But he's not a stranger, Mom. He's nice. Come watch my cartoons, mister," he invited, extending his hand to Ethan. Claire stood up quickly, placing herself between Ethan and her son. "Liam, not now. The gentleman is leaving." Ethan felt his heart break at the barrier Claire was putting up, but he understood. He had lost the right to be part of her, of their life a long time ago. Your mom's right, Liam," he said, forcing a smile. "I'm going now, but it was really nice meeting you." "Are you coming back tomorrow?" the boy asked, hopeful. Before Ethan could respond, Claire stepped in. "Liam, go inside and put your toys away, please." "Now." Her tone admitted no argument, and Liam obeyed reluctantly, casting one last look at Ethan before disappearing into the apartment. Once they were alone again, Claire pressed the envelope against Ethan's chest. "Take your money and go. Don't come back. Don't look for Liam. We have a good life here without you." Ethan didn't take the envelope. "Claire, I know I wronged you. I was a coward, selfish. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please, let me help now. Not for me. Do it for Liam. For you." Something changed in Claire's eyes, a flash of tears quickly suppressed. "I don't need your pity, Ethan," she said in a lower, more controlled voice. "And I certainly don't need you appearing in Liam's life, only to vanish again when you get tired of playing benefactor." Her words hit Ethan like a punch. She was right, of course. What guarantee did Liam have that he wouldn't run away again when things got tough? "I won't disappear," he promised, his voice firm. "Not this time." Claire studied him, her eyes searching for something in his face. Whatever she was looking for, she seemed not to find it. "Words are easy, Ethan. Actions are what matter, and your actions have already shown me all I need to know about you." She held out the envelope again. "Please, take this and leave. If you really want to help, respect my wishes and leave us in peace." Ethan hesitated, but finally took the envelope. Not because he agreed to leave, but because he knew this battle would not be won today. Claire needed time, and he needed to prove he had changed. "I'll respect your wish today," he said, putting the envelope in his pocket. "But I won't give up so easily, Claire, not anymore." She didn't reply, merely opened the apartment door wider, preparing to step back inside. "Just answer one thing," Ethan asked, before she could close the door. "What do you have? Liam said you're sick." For a moment, it seemed Claire wouldn't answer. Her face was turned away, her shoulders tense. "Severe anemia and an autoimmune condition affecting my kidneys," she said at last, her voice neutral, as if speaking to a stranger. "Nothing that can't be controlled with the right treatment. Treatment I can pay for myself. Thank you very much." Before he could say anything else, Claire stepped into the apartment and firmly shut the door. Ethan stood in the corridor, staring at the closed door, feeling as if he had lost something precious for the second time. But this time, he wouldn't run. He wouldn't abandon Claire again, even if she didn't want him around, even if she hated him. Somehow he would find a way to help, a way to prove he had changed. As he walked down the stairs of the building, he heard a window open above him. Glancing up, he saw Liam leaning out of the windowsill, waving excitedly. "Bye, Carman!" the boy called out. "Come back tomorrow." Ethan smiled and waved back, his heart feeling lighter for a moment. Claire might try to keep her distance, but something told him Liam wouldn't make it easy. And maybe, just maybe, that 5-year-old boy was the bridge he needed to fix what he had broken so many years ago. No, he wouldn't run away this time. He wouldn't leave Claire to face her illness alone. He wouldn't let Liam grow up without knowing him. This time he would stay and fight for what mattered. Even if Claire didn't want him in her life, he would find a way to help. Because now he understood what he hadn't understood 6 years ago. Some things are worth fighting for, even when the road is hard. Especially when the road is hard. Ethan looked at Claire's building from across the street, sitting in his car for almost an hour. He had come back the day after their confrontation, as he had promised himself, but didn't have the courage to go up. The memory of Claire's icy stare and the harsh words she had said was still too fresh. On the third day, he finally gathered his courage. Not to knock on her door again, he knew that would only result in more rejection, but to do something else. Something that would prove he really had changed, that he was no longer the man who ran away years ago. His first stop was at the building's management office. The place was old, but there was a small office on the ground floor where a middle-aged woman managed paperwork. "Good morning," Ethan greeted, flashing his most charming smile. "I'm looking for information about apartment 302. The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Martinez, raised an eyebrow. "And you are?" "A friend of the family," Ethan replied in a casual tone. "I heard they're having some financial difficulties, and I'd like to help." "Apartment 302. Oh, Mrs. Foster," said Mrs. Martinez, flipping through a register book. "Yes, she's 2 months behind on her rent. Such a shame, she was always so punctual." Ethan felt a pang in his chest. Claire's situation was worse than he had imagined. "How much is the total amount owed?" Mrs. Martinez gave him the figure, adding, "I know she's going through health problems. She has a young child to raise all by herself. I tried to give her more time, but the owner is pushing for eviction." Ethan pulled out his checkbook. "I'll settle it right now," he said. writing a check covering not only the back rent, but the next 3 months as well. But please, don't mention my name. Just say it was a clerical error, that the payments had already been processed. Mrs. Martinez eyed him with a mixture of surprise and suspicion. Why the anonymity? Ethan hesitated, then opted for honesty, because she wouldn't accept my help directly. I have a debt to Claire, one I'm trying to repay, even if she doesn't know. Something in his tone must have convinced the woman, because she nodded slowly. All right, Mr. Miller. Ethan Miller. She wrote down his name next to the check. I'll let her know there was a mistake in the records and that her rent is up to date. Thank you, Ethan said, feeling a small sense of relief. It was the least he could do, but it was a start. His next stop was the local pharmacy. It took some time to persuade the pharmacist to cooperate with his plan, but a generous incentive helped overcome any ethical reservations. Mrs. Foster has a monthly medication plan, the pharmacist explained after checking the records, but she usually can only buy part of the prescribed drugs. She prioritizes the most essential. Ethan felt another pang of guilt. While he lived in a luxurious apartment and spent more on dinner than many people earned in a month, Claire was choosing which vital medicines she could afford. I want to pay for a full year of medication, he said, surprising even himself with the decision. Create some sort of credit in the system. She mustn't know it was me. How will I explain that to her? Ethan thought for a moment. Tell her it's a new program from the drug manufacturer, a subsidy for patients with her condition. With the rent and medication taken care of, Ethan needed to figure out a way to get closer to Claire without her immediately rejecting him. And the answer came in the form of Liam. The next day, he positioned himself near the park where he had found the boy. He knew it was risky, Claire might see him, and that would ruin everything, but he needed to try. After almost an hour of waiting, luck smiled on him. He saw Liam enter the park alone once again. The boy had snuck out again, Ethan concluded, worried about this dangerous habit. But it was also an opportunity. He watched from a distance for a few minutes, seeing how Liam played on the slide, his face lit up by the simple joy of childhood. Something inside Ethan warmed at the sight. Finally, he approached casually. Hey, Liam, he greeted when the boy stopped near him to retrieve a ball. Liam's eyes widened in recognition, and a huge smile spread across his face. Carman, he exclaimed, abandoning the ball and running over to him. You came back. I did, Ethan confirmed with a smile. But tell me, does your mum know you're here alone again? Liam's smile faded slightly. No, she's resting. She's not feeling well today. Ethan frowned, worried. Liam, it's dangerous for you to go out alone like this. Your mum must be really worried. But I wanted to see you again, Liam protested. You never came back to our house. Ethan's heart tightened as he realized the boy had been waiting for him. Your mother made it pretty clear she doesn't want me around, he explained gently. And we have to respect that. But why? Liam asked, confused. You're nice and you helped with the medicine. Ethan sighed, thinking of how to explain something so complicated to a 5-year-old. Sometimes adults have problems kids don't understand, he finally said. Your mom has good reasons to be upset with me. Liam looked dissatisfied with that explanation, but didn't push. Instead, he grabbed Ethan's hand. Do you want to see my new drawing? He asked, changing the subject as only children can. I drew a car just like yours. For half an hour, Ethan found himself completely absorbed in Liam's world. The boy showed him drawings he had brought along, told him stories about school, and demonstrated how his remote-controlled car could do stunts. You really like that car, don't you? Ethan commented, noticing how carefully Liam handled the toy. It's my favorite, Liam confirmed. I got it for my birthday. Mom said it was really expensive, but that I'm a very special boy. Ethan smiled at the boy's enthusiasm. When's your next birthday? In 2 months, Liam replied, his eyes shining. I'm going to be 6. Mom said she's going to make a chocolate cake, which is my favorite. The conversation continued, and Ethan lost track of time. He was so engrossed in Liam's stories that he almost forgot the circumstances that had brought them together. But reality wasn't long in coming. Liam! A woman's voice, filled with panic, cut through the air. Liam, where are you? Ethan froze at the sound of Claire's voice. He turned slowly and saw her at the park entrance, pale and visibly distressed, frantically searching for her son. Liam waved excitedly. "Mom! Over here! Look who I found!" Claire's expression when she saw Ethan was a mix of shock and fury. She ran over, pulling Liam close to her. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed at Ethan, her eyes flashing with anger. "First you give my son money, and now you lure him away from home." "That's not what happened," Ethan defended himself, keeping his voice calm. "I found Liam by chance. He came here alone." "Mom, it's true," Liam interjected, confused by his mother's reaction. "I came looking for Ethan. He's nice." Claire looked at her son, then back at Ethan, still suspicious. "We're going home, Liam," she said finally, her voice more controlled but still tense. "Don't ever do this again, understand? I was terrified when I woke up and couldn't find you." "I'm sorry, Mom," Liam mumbled, looking down. Before they could walk away, Ethan called out, "Claire, wait!" She paused but didn't turn around. "Just stay away from my son," she said, without looking back, and continued walking, holding Liam's hand. Ethan watched them go, feeling defeated. But he didn't give up. If he couldn't approach them directly, he would keep helping in other ways. In the weeks that followed, he kept his word. He didn't seek out Liam again, respecting Claire's boundaries, but he continued his discreet assistance. From Mrs. Martinez, he learned that Claire had almost collapsed with relief upon discovering her rent was up to date due to a clerical error. "She hugged me," the manager said it was a miracle. From the pharmacist, he learned that Claire had been shocked and emotional about the program that would cover her medications. "She cried right here in the pharmacy," the man said, leaving Ethan with a mix of relief and guilt. His next action required more planning. Through quiet investigation, he discovered Liam attended a local public school. It was a decent school, but lacked resources. 2 weeks and several phone calls later, Ethan made a generous anonymous donation to the school, specifically to start a music and arts program. He imagined Liam's face lighting up upon hearing about the new activities, and it gave him more satisfaction than any professional achievement ever had. But it was an unexpected encounter that truly changed everything. Nearly a month after the incident at the park, Ethan was leaving a meeting at the city's medical center when he spotted a familiar figure in the lobby. Liam was sitting alone in a chair too big for him, swinging his legs nervously and hugging a small teddy bear. Ethan hesitated. Claire was probably nearby, and she wouldn't be happy to see him. But he couldn't just ignore the boy, who looked scared and lonely. He approached cautiously. "Hey, Liam," he greeted, keeping a respectful distance. "Everything okay?" Liam's face lit up when he saw him. "Ethan," he exclaimed, jumping off the chair. "Are you here to see Mom too?" Ethan frowned, confused. "See your mom?" "She's here?" Liam nodded, suddenly looking serious. "Mom's sick again. The lady at the front desk said I should wait here while the doctor talks to her." He clutched his teddy bear tighter. "I'm scared." Ethan's heart ached at the fear in the boy's eyes. "I'm sure your mom will be fine," he said, sitting next to Liam. "The doctors here are very good." "What if she's not?" Liam asked in a small voice. "What if she ends up like Thomas's mom, who went to heaven?" Ethan swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the question. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that sometimes there are no guarantees? "Your mom is very strong," he finally said, placing a gentle hand on Liam's shoulder. "And she has the best reason in the world to get better." "What reason?" "You," Ethan replied simply. "She loves you more than anything." Liam seemed to think about that, then asked, "Can you stay with me until Mom comes out?" The question took Ethan by surprise. He knew he should say no, that Claire wouldn't approve, but he couldn't refuse those pleading eyes. "Sure," he agreed, preparing to face Claire's anger later. "I'll stay right here with you." Over the next hour, Ethan did everything he could to distract Liam. He told stories, played simple guessing games, and even taught him how to make a paper airplane out of an old waiting room magazine. When finally a nurse appeared, looking for Liam, Ethan braced himself for the inevitable confrontation. "She's ready to go home," the nurse said, smiling kindly at Liam. "Your mom is waiting for you in room 12. Liam jumped up, excited, but then looked at Ethan, hesitant. "Are you coming too?" Ethan shook his head. I think I'd better not champ. Your mom probably won't be very happy to see me. Liam pursed his lips, disappointed but nodded. Then, on impulse, he gave Ethan a quick hug. Thanks for staying with me, he said, before following the nurse down the hallway. Ethan stood there, touched by the simple yet deeply meaningful gesture. He was about to leave when the nurse returned, looking confused. Excuse me, but Mrs. Foster is asking who was with her son, she said. Liam mentioned an Ethan. He hesitated, then decided to face the situation head-on. That's me, he admitted. You can tell her I'm leaving. The nurse seemed relieved. Actually, she asked you to come over. Room 12 at the end of the hall. Surprised, Ethan walked down the corridor, his heart pounding. What could Claire want? More scolding, more warnings to stay away. When he entered room 12, he found Claire sitting on the edge of a hospital bed, looking exhausted but alert. Liam stood by her side, holding her hand and talking animatedly. Jan Ethan taught me to make a paper airplane that really flies, Liam was saying, and he said you're the strongest person he knows. Claire looked up as Ethan entered, and for a moment he couldn't read her expression. Hi, he said hesitantly. The nurse said you wanted to see me. Claire studied his face for a long moment before answering. Liam said you stayed with him for over an hour, she said finally. That you helped him not be scared. Ethan shrugged, embarrassed. It seemed like the right thing to do. A strange silence fell over the room, broken only by Liam's constant chatter, seemingly oblivious to the tension between the adults. Thank you, Claire finally said, her voice low but firm, for taking care of him. Ethan nodded, surprised by her unexpected gratitude. Anytime, he replied sincerely. He's a great kid. Another silent moment. Then Claire continued. I know you're behind the clerical errors with my rent, she said, catching him off guard again, and the miraculous subsidy program for my medications. Ethan opened his mouth to deny it, but Claire held up a hand. Please, don't insult my intelligence. There are too many coincidences since you reappeared. He closed his mouth, resigned. How did you figure it out? I have my ways, she replied vaguely. The point is, why? Why are you doing all this? It was a question Ethan had been asking himself for weeks. At first it had been because of guilt, a desire to make amends for the past. But now, because I want to help, he replied simply, not to feel better about myself or to earn your forgiveness. Just because it's the right thing to do. Claire watched him closely, as if assessing the sincerity of his words. Liam really likes you, she said at last. He can't stop talking about the car man. Ethan felt a warmth spread in his chest at that. I like him a lot too, he admitted. He's special. Claire sighed, seeming to make a hard decision. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said bluntly. I don't know if I ever will be, but... She hesitated, glancing at Liam, who was now busy with his teddy bear. Maybe we can work something out, for Liam's sake. What kind of arrangement? Ethan asked, barely daring to breathe. You could see him occasionally, supervised visits. At the park. Maybe hum, or... She paused, as if she couldn't believe what she was about to say. Maybe at the apartment. Sometimes. It was more than Ethan had ever hoped for. I'd like that very much, he said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you, Claire. She nodded, still cautious, but something in her gaze had softened. I'm not doing this for you, she clarified. I'm doing it for him. Liam needs positive male figures in his life. I understand, Ethan said, accepting the implied conditions. No expectations, no pressure, just a chance to be part of Liam's life, on Claire's terms. When he left the hospital that day, Ethan felt something he hadn't experienced in a long time, genuine hope. It wasn't the fairy tale ending, nor the immediate forgiveness he secretly wanted. It was something more real, more honest, a second chance, hard-won and delicately given. A chance to show, not just Claire, but himself, that he had truly changed, that he was no longer the man who ran away 6 years ago. That this time, he would stay and face any difficulties, no matter how scary. And most importantly, a chance to get to know Liam, to become part, even a small part, of the life of that extraordinary boy who had already won his heart. For the first time in a long while, Ethan wasn't thinking about what might have been, but about what could be. And that, he discovered, made all the difference. Ethan's visits became part of the routine. 3 times a week, he showed up at Claire's apartment, always promptly at 6 in the evening. On Tuesdays, he helped Liam with homework. On Thursdays, he usually brought a new model kit for them to build together. And on Saturdays, he took the boy to the park or the museum, always returning at the agreed time. Claire watched this consistency with a mix of relief and suspicion. Part of her wanted to believe Ethan had truly changed, that this time he would stay. But another part, the part that still carried the scars of abandonment, waited for the moment he would disappear again. On that Sunday afternoon, the autumn sun streamed through the windows of the small apartment, while Liam and Ethan worked on assembling a model airplane at the kitchen table. Their heads were close together, focused on the task, and Claire observed them from the doorway with an unreadable expression. A month ago, she never would have pictured this scene in her home. No, this piece goes here," Liam said, pointing with his small finger. "See, it's the same shape." Ethan smiled, admiring the boy's observation. "You're right. It's amazing how you notice these details." Liam's face lit up at the praise. Claire noticed how her son flourished under Ethan's attention, and it filled her with contradictory feelings. Joy at seeing Liam so happy, fear of what would happen if Ethan vanished again, and a pang of something she didn't want to admit to herself, the memory of how she had once felt about that same man years ago. "Mom, look," Liam exclaimed, holding up the nearly finished model. "We're making a real airplane." Claire smiled, pushing aside the uncomfortable thoughts. "I see that, my love. It looks incredible." "Is it like the airplanes you build at work, Ethan?" Liam asked, his eyes shining with admiration. "Well, I don't exactly build airplanes," Ethan explained patiently. "My company develops navigation systems that help airplanes fly safely, but the idea is similar." Claire checked the clock on the wall. "It's getting late, Liam. Time for your bath. You have school tomorrow." The boy made a face but didn't argue. After weeks of interaction, they had established a rule. Whenever Ethan visited, Liam had to follow all of Claire's instructions without complaint. "Can we finish this tomorrow, Ethan?" he asked, carefully placing the model on the shelf. "Of course, champ. The plane will be waiting for you." Liam hugged Ethan briefly and ran off to the bathroom, leaving the adults alone in the kitchen. An awkward silence fell over the room. Despite the regular visits, Claire and Ethan rarely ended up alone. It was almost as if they were avoiding the inevitable, the conversation they needed to have. "He's doing well in school?" Ethan asked, just to break the silence. Claire nodded, starting to clear the model materials from the table. "Surprisingly well. His teacher said he's more focused, more confident." "That's great," Ethan replied, helping her store the small pieces. Their hands touched accidentally on the table, and both drew back as if shocked. Claire took a deep breath. Maybe it was time. Liam would be busy in the bath for at least 20 minutes, and she had been putting off this conversation for too long. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice tenser than she intended. "Really talk? I mean, about everything." Ethan looked momentarily surprised, then nodded solemnly. "Sure." They sat at the kitchen table, facing each other. For a few moments, neither spoke. The sound of running water in the bathroom was the only noise in the quiet apartment. "Why?" Claire finally asked, her voice low but charged with contained emotion. "Why did you leave like that?" The question hung in the air between them. 6 years of pain, doubt, and anger condensed into those simple words. Ethan swallowed hard, his eyes meeting hers. He knew he owed her that question, that he owed her complete honesty. "Because I was scared," he admitted, his voice rough. "Our relationship was getting serious, and when I started thinking about commitment, about building a life together, I panicked." Claire shook her head in disbelief. "Scared? That's why you just disappeared. One day we were planning a trip together, and the next you wouldn't answer my calls, my messages. You vanished without explanation." The pain in her voice hit him like a physical blow. "I have no excuse, Claire. What I did was unforgivable." "I'm not looking for excuses," she retorted, struggling to control her emotions. "I'm trying to understand." I thought we had something special. I thought you loved me." "I did love you," Ethan affirmed without hesitation. "That was the problem. I had never felt anything so strong for anyone, and it terrified me." Claire stared at him, her eyes searching for the truth in his. "What exactly scared you?" she asked, her voice calmer now. "Commitment. The idea of staying with the same person." Ethan shook his head, searching for the right words. "It wasn't that simple. It was..." He hesitated, then continued. "My parents had a terrible marriage. You know that. I grew up watching my dad make promises he never kept, watching my mum get disappointed over and over, and I started thinking, what if I'm like him? What if I promise forever and can't keep it?" He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture Claire remembered all too well. "So instead of facing that fear, I ran. I convinced myself I was doing you a favor, that you deserved someone better, someone who could give you certainty." Claire took in his words silently. Back then, she had imagined 1,000 reasons for Ethan's disappearance. Another woman, loss of interest, a problem she hadn't noticed. She had never considered that the problem might be how deeply he cared. "Why didn't you talk to me?" she asked, her voice softer. "Why not share those fears?" Ethan let out a bitter, humorless laugh. "Because I was immature, insecure. Because I was afraid that if you saw how damaged I was inside, you wouldn't love me anymore." He looked at her directly. "I was 32 years old, Claire, but emotionally I was a frightened teenager." Silence fell between them again, only the distant sound of Liam's bathwater filling the gap. "Do you know what happened after you left?" Claire finally asked, her voice calm, almost distant. Ethan felt a tightening in his chest. "No, I tried not to think about you. I tried to move on." Claire nodded, as if confirming something she already suspected. 2 weeks after you disappeared, I found out I was pregnant." The words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut, even though he already knew the result of that pregnancy. "Liam, the wonderful boy currently in the bath. I tried to find you, you know," Claire continued, her eyes lost in memories. "I called your phone dozens of times. I went to your apartment, but the doorman said you had moved out. I called your company, but they said you were on an extended business trip." Ethan lowered his head, shame burning in his chest. "I was running away," he admitted. "I asked for a transfer to the London office. I left the country a week after I left you." Claire stared at him, surprised. "London? You went to another continent." "Like I said, I was terrified," he replied, his voice low. "And the longer I stayed away, the harder it was to come back. The harder it was to admit what I'd done." Claire took a deep breath, trying to control the anger that was rising again. "Do you have any idea what I went through? Pregnant, alone, not knowing why the man who said he loved me had simply vanished." Her voice trembled slightly. "My parents cut me off when they found out I was pregnant. I lost my apartment because I couldn't afford the rent on my own. I had to drop out of college because I needed to work full-time." Each word was like a blade piercing Ethan's heart. The guilt he felt was so overwhelming he could barely breathe. "Claire, he started, but she raised a hand to stop him. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty, Ethan. I'm telling you because you need to understand. You need to understand what it means for me to allow you into Liam's life now." "Into my life?" Ethan nodded, grasping the magnitude of what she was saying. "I know nothing I do can erase what happened," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion. "But I want you to know I'm not that person anymore. I've spent the last 6 years trying to become someone better, someone stronger." "Why?" Claire asked, genuinely curious. "What changed?" Ethan reflected for a moment. "I realized how empty my life was, the work, the professional success. None of it mattered when I came home to an empty apartment every night." He looked into her eyes. "And to be completely honest, I never got over you, Claire. I never stopped thinking about what could have been." Claire looked away, uncomfortable with the intensity of his words. "That doesn't matter now," she said, her voice controlled. "What matters is the present. And Liam." "Liam," Ethan repeated, the name escaping almost like a prayer. "He's incredible, Claire. You've done an amazing job raising him." A small smile touched Claire's lips. "Yes, he's incredible, and that's why I need to be crystal clear about this." Her face grew serious again. I've seen how he looks at you, Ethan, how he eagerly waits for your visits, how he trusts you. Ethan felt warmth in his chest at hearing that, but also sensed the warning in her words. He's getting attached to you, Claire continued, and that terrifies me, because if you disappear again— I won't, Ethan interrupted, his voice filled with conviction. Not this time, not with him. Claire held his gaze, her eyes searching for any sign of deceit or hesitation. How can I be sure of that? How can I trust you after what happened? It was a fair question, and Ethan knew there was no easy answer. You can't, he admitted honestly. I can't prove with words that I'm different now. All I can do is show you, day after day. And that's what I intend to do, Claire, for as long as it takes. She studied him for a long moment. It's not just about me, Ethan. If you're here because of unresolved feelings for me, or guilt over the past, and that's not enough, it has to be about Liam. He deserves a father who's there for him, not for any other reason. I know, Ethan agreed. And it is about him. Of course I care about you, Claire, and yes, I feel guilty for what I did. But what I feel for Liam is different. It's pure in a way. It has nothing to do with the past. He's not a redemption project, Ethan, Claire warned. He's not a way for you to feel better about yourself. That's not how I see him, Ethan protested, feeling slightly offended. Liam is amazing. Being with him, seeing how his mind works, how he sees the world, it's like rediscovering everything all over again. I'm not here to redeem myself, Claire. I'm here because I want to be part of his life. Something in Ethan's tone must have convinced Claire, because her gaze softened slightly. What happens when things get hard? She asked, her voice calmer now. When it's no longer new, when it's not just fun and gifts. I'll be here, Ethan answered simply. In good times and bad. And when my condition gets worse, Claire continued, her gaze penetrating. Because it will, Ethan. The doctors were clear about that. In the next few years, I might need more intense treatment, maybe even a transplant. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest at hearing that. He knew Claire was sick, but hadn't realized how serious it was. All the more reason for me to be here, he said firmly. Liam will need support. You will need support. Claire shook her head, a sad smile on her lips. I don't want you to stay out of pity, Ethan. I don't need your charity. It's not charity, he insisted. It's what any decent person would do. Is that what we are now? Just decent people to each other? The question hung between them, laden with unspoken meaning. Before Ethan could answer, Liam's voice called from the bathroom. Mom, I'm done with my bath. Claire stood up, ending the tense moment. Coming, my love, she replied, then looked at Ethan. I need to help him get dressed. Ethan nodded, also standing. Sure. Should I leave? Claire hesitated, then sighed. No, stay for dinner. Liam would be disappointed if you left now. As Claire left the kitchen, Ethan remained, absorbing everything that had been said. He knew the conversation they'd had was just the beginning. There was much more to be said, much more to resolve, but it was a start. And this time, he wouldn't run. No matter how difficult things got, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Because now he understood what he hadn't before. Some people are worth the fight, worth the effort, worth the risk. Liam was worth it. And maybe, just maybe, he and Claire were worth a second chance too. But for now, he had to prove day after day that he deserved Claire's trust. That he was someone Liam could rely on, that this time he would stay. The autumn months turned into winter, and a steady routine emerged between Claire, Liam, and Ethan. 3 times a week, he arrived at the apartment promptly at 6 in the evening. On Tuesdays, he helped Liam with homework. On Thursdays, he brought a new model for them to build together. And on Saturdays, he took the boy to the park or the museum, always returning at the agreed time. Claire observed this regularity with both relief and lingering doubt. Part of her wanted to believe Ethan had truly changed, that this time he would stay, but the part of her that still held the scars of being abandoned braced for him to vanish again. One December morning, Claire woke up feeling worse than usual. The back pain, which was typically tolerable, seemed to have intensified overnight. There was also a strange pressure in her chest, a slight difficulty breathing that she couldn't ignore. "Just a bad day," she muttered to herself, swallowing her medications with water. "It'll pass." But it didn't. By lunchtime, while making a sandwich for Liam, she was hit by a sudden dizziness that caused her to drop the plate, shattering it on the kitchen floor. "Mom!" Liam exclaimed, alarmed. "Are you okay?" Claire clung to the counter, struggling to breathe. "I'm fine, sweetheart. It was just an accident." But Liam, with that keen perception children sometimes have, wasn't fooled. "You're pale, Mom, and you're breathing funny." Claire tried to smile, but the effort only highlighted her pallor. "I think I'll lie down for a bit," she admitted. "You can eat your sandwich in the living room as watching TV. Just for today, okay?" Liam's eyes went wide at the unusual permission. Normally, Claire insisted meals be eaten at the table without distractions. "Can I call Ethan?" the boy asked, his voice small with concern. "No need, my love. It's not his visiting day, and I just need to rest a little." Claire patted her son's head, trying to appear stronger than she felt. "I promise I'll be better soon." But upon reaching her bedroom, Claire realized she had underestimated how serious it was. The pain in her chest worsened, and it was getting harder to breathe. She sat on the edge of the bed, trying not to panic. "Maybe I should call 911, she thought, reaching for the phone on her nightstand. But before she could dial, another wave of pain hit her, so intense that the device slipped from her fingers. "Mom!" Liam's voice came from the doorway, fearful. "Are you crying?" Claire hadn't realized tears were streaming down her face. She tried to wipe them away quickly, but the movement caused more pain. "I'm fine, sweetheart," she lied, her voice trembling. Liam approached, his small eyes full of worry. "I'm calling Ethan," he decided, with surprising firmness for his 5 years. Before Claire could stop him, the boy ran to the living room. Claire tried to stand up to stop him, but another wave of dizziness made her give up. Maybe it was for the best that he called for help. Her pride wasn't worth leaving Liam alone if something really happened to her. In the living room, Liam grabbed the phone and dialed the number he knew by heart, though he'd never called Ethan before. They had practiced it several times, just for emergencies, as Ethan had explained. And in Liam's mind, this definitely was an emergency. "Ethan Miller," the familiar voice answered after 3 rings. "Ethan," Liam's voice sounded small and scared. "Mom's sick. She's breathing funny and crying." There was a brief silence. Then Ethan's voice returned, calm but urgent. "Liam, are you at home now?" "Yes. Mom's in the bedroom. She dropped a plate and she's really pale." "I'm on my way," Ethan said, and Liam could hear him moving quickly on the other end. "I'll get there as fast as I can. Meanwhile, I want you to do something very important for me, okay?" "Okay," Liam agreed, relieved to have an adult telling him what to do. "Stay with your mom. Don't leave her alone. And if she gets worse before I arrive, call 911, remember?" "I remember. Good boy, I'm on my way." Liam hung up and returned to his mother's room, where Claire lay down, her face contorted with pain. "Mom, Ethan's coming," he said, climbing onto the bed and holding her hand. "He told me to stay with you." Claire wanted to protest, to say she didn't need Ethan, that she could handle it, but the truth was she had never felt so bad, and knowing someone was coming to help was an enormous relief. "Thank you, my love," she murmured, squeezing her son's hand. The minutes that followed felt like an eternity. Liam stayed by her side, telling stories about school, about his drawings, about anything that came into his childish mind, clearly trying to distract her from the pain. The sound of hurried footsteps on the stairs finally announced Ethan's arrival. He didn't knock, using the key Claire had given him just for emergencies. Seconds later, he was in the bedroom, his face tense with concern. "Claire," he said, kneeling beside the bed. "What's going on?" "It's nothing," she began, but was interrupted by a dry cough that made her double over in pain. Ethan was already pulling out his phone. "I'm calling an ambulance." "No," Claire protested, trying to sit up. "I can't afford an ambulance. Just help me to the car. You can drive me." Ethan looked at her, torn between frustration at her stubbornness and admiration for her strength. "All right, but we're leaving right now," he turned to Liam. "Buddy, I need your help." Can you grab your mum's coat and her medicines? Liam nodded, happy to have a task. The medicines are in the blue box in the bathroom, he said, running off to do his job. While the boy was gone, Ethan leaned over Claire. Can you tell me what you're feeling? Chest pain, she admitted, breathing shallowly, shortness of breath. And the back pain is getting worse. Ethan's face showed unmasked worry. It could be your kidney condition affecting your heart. We need to go to the hospital now. Claire didn't argue anymore. She let Ethan help her stand, leaning heavily on him as they walked to the living room. Liam was already back with the coat and the medicine box, his small face serious with responsibility. Great job, Liam, Ethan praised, helping Claire put on her coat. Now let's all get to the car. Going down the stairs was a slow, painful process. Each step felt like knives stabbing Claire's back. Ethan held her firmly, murmuring words of encouragement, while Liam went ahead, looking back every few steps to check their progress. In the car, Ethan settled Claire in the back seat so she could lie down, and placed Liam in the front passenger seat, making sure his seatbelt was secured. Memorial Hospital or St. Luke's? He asked, starting the engine. Memorial, Claire answered weakly. My doctor works there. During the drive, Ethan navigated the streets with controlled urgency, glancing between the road, the rearview mirror to check on Claire, and Liam, who was unusually quiet. You were really brave today, Liam, Ethan said, trying to reassure the boy. Your mom is going to be fine. The doctors will take care of her. Liam nodded, his big eyes full of worry. Will she have to stay in the hospital? Ethan took a deep breath. Maybe, buddy. But if she does, you can stay with me, okay? I have a spare room in my apartment we can set up for you. With my astronaut bed, Liam asked, referring to the bed design they had seen together in a store weeks ago. Exactly that, Ethan confirmed, grateful for the distraction. With lights and everything. From the back seat, Claire listened to their conversation, feeling a mixture of gratitude and apprehension. The ease with which Ethan assumed responsibility, the natural way Liam accepted his solutions, it was as if they were already a family, a real family, and that terrified her. At the hospital, things happened quickly. Ethan parked at the emergency entrance, and in seconds had a wheelchair for Claire. The staff reacted to her pallor and her labored breathing, taking her inside right away. I'm Dr. Takahashi, a nephrology specialist, said a middle-aged doctor once Claire was placed on a hospital bed. You must be Claire Foster, your physician, Dr. Rodriguez told me about your case. As the doctor began examining Claire, a nurse approached Ethan and Liam, who stood beside the bed. Are you the husband? She asked. Before Ethan could reply, Liam jumped in. He's Ethan. He's going to stay with us forever. The simplicity of that statement caused a brief, awkward silence. Ethan felt his face warm under the nurse's curious gaze. I'm a friend of the family, he clarified. Can I stay with Liam while she's being treated? The nurse nodded, and soon Claire was taken away for tests, leaving Ethan and Liam in the waiting room. The hours that followed were some of the longest of Ethan's life. Liam alternated between periods of silent worry and bursts of anxious questions. Is Mum going to be okay? How long will she stay? Can she come home today? Ethan answered as honestly as he could, knowing well-intentioned lies would only make things worse later. Finally, Dr. Takahashi appeared in the waiting room. Mr. Miller, he called, and Ethan stood, holding Liam's hand. Mrs. Foster is stable now, but the situation is serious. She had what we call a hypertensive crisis, triggered by the worsening of her kidney condition. We'll need to keep her for a few days and probably adjust her treatment. Ethan nodded, taking in the information. Will she be okay? The doctor hesitated briefly. With the right treatment, yes, but I have to be clear. Her condition is progressing faster than we expected. In the coming months, we need to consider more aggressive treatment options. Like a transplant? Ethan asked, recalling the conversation with Claire weeks ago. Exactly, the doctor confirmed, seeming slightly surprised by Ethan's knowledge. In fact, the sooner we start looking for compatible donors, the better her chances. Can I see her? Liam asked, his small voice interrupting the adults. Dr. Takahashi smiled at the boy. Of course you can. She's asking for you. But just a quick visit, okay? She needs to rest. Ethan and Liam followed the doctor down the white corridors to a private room. Claire lay in bed, connected to various monitors and an IV line. She looked fragile and pale against the hospital sheets, but her eyes lit up when she saw Liam. "My love," she called, extending her free hand toward her son. Liam ran to her, carefully climbing onto the edge of the bed to hug her. "Are you going to get better, Mum?" he asked, his voice trembling. "I will," Claire assured, kissing the top of his head. "I just need to stay here a few days so the doctors can help me." Liam nodded, accepting that explanation with the confidence only children have. "Ethan said I can stay at his place, and he's going to buy me an astronaut bed." Claire glanced at Ethan, who stood in the doorway, a silent question in her eyes. "If that's okay with you," he said. "I thought it might be easier for him than staying here in the hospital, or with a neighbor he doesn't really know." It was a practical, sensible offer. Still, Claire hesitated. Leaving Liam in Ethan's care meant granting him an enormous responsibility, a level of trust she wasn't sure she was ready to give. But looking at her son, so comfortable around Ethan, so confident that everything would be fine because Ethan had said so, she realized she had no choice. "All right," she finally agreed. "But you call me every night, young man," she added, playfully tapping Liam's nose. "At bedtime," he promised, smiling. Dr. Takahashi, who had waited patiently at the door, finally spoke up. "Mrs. Foster, we need to discuss some administrative matters about insurance and—" "Don't worry about that," Ethan interrupted, his voice firm. "I'll handle all the expenses." Claire opened her mouth to protest, but Ethan raised a hand. "Please, Claire, let me do this. Not as charity, but as—" He hesitated, conscious of Liam's presence, "as something I owe you both." A moment of silent tension passed as Claire struggled between her pride and the reality of her situation. Finally, she nodded slightly. "Thank you," she whispered, barely audible. That night, after Claire received more medication and fell asleep, Ethan took Liam to his apartment. The place was spacious and elegant, with a view of the city park, but curiously impersonal. There were no photos on the walls, few books on the shelves, nothing suggesting someone actually lived there. "So your apartment is bigger than ours," Liam exclaimed, exploring the rooms with childlike curiosity. "And there's a giant TV." Ethan smiled, watching the boy run around the space that had always felt so empty to him. "Come on, I'll show you where you'll sleep." The guest room was simple but comfortable, with a double bed, nightstand, and empty dresser. "Tomorrow we'll buy your astronaut bed," Ethan promised, "and some other things so you feel more at home." After an improvised dinner of mac and cheese, the only thing Ethan knew how to cook that Liam would eat, a bath, and a call to Claire at the hospital, Liam was finally ready for bed. Ethan tucked him into the large bed, covering him with the blue blanket they had brought from Claire's apartment. "Ethan," Liam called when he was about to leave the room, "do you think Mom will really get better?" The vulnerability in the boy's voice made Ethan's heart ache. "I do, champ. Your mom is the strongest person I know." Liam nodded, apparently satisfied with that answer. "You know something," he said, already sleepy. "I wish you could stay with us forever. Then you could take care of Mom when she's sick, and I wouldn't have to be scared." The simple, sincere words hit Ethan like a punch in the gut. The pure, innocent desire of a child for security, for a complete family. "I'd like that too, Liam," he replied honestly, adjusting the blanket around the boy. "More than you can imagine." In the days that followed, Ethan established a new routine. In the morning, he took Liam to school, then divided his day between remote work and hospital visits. In the afternoon, he picked Liam up, took him to see Claire, and then they returned to the apartment and where they had dinner and called her again before bed. On the third day, as promised, the astronaut bed arrived, along with a child-sized closet and several toys for the room that was now officially Liam's room. "Ethan, this is too much," Claire protested when he mentioned the purchases during a visit. "You didn't have to spend so much." "It's nothing," he replied, sitting in the chair by her hospital bed. Liam was in the hospital's playroom, taking part in an activity with other kids. "I want him to feel at home." Claire studied him for a moment. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why are you doing all this, Ethan? The truth." Ethan took a deep breath. Maybe it was time for complete honesty. Because I want to be part of your lives, he admitted. Not just now during this crisis, but permanently. Claire looked away, processing his confession. That's not something you decide on your own, she said at last. And more importantly, it's not something you can walk away from when it gets hard. And it will get hard, Ethan. You heard the doctor. My condition is getting worse. I know that, he said, leaning forward. And I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I just want you to know I'm here, really here. A heavy silence hung between them. Finally, Claire spoke. This isn't the first time you've been here. Ethan frowned, confused. What do you mean? Claire shifted on the bed, preparing for a revelation. 2 years ago, when Liam was 3, I got a call from the building management. They said someone had paid 6 months of my rent in advance, anonymously. She stared at him. That was you, wasn't it? Ethan paled, surprised she had found out. How did you know? I didn't know for sure until now, Claire admitted, but I always suspected Mrs. Martinez let slip it was a well-dressed gentleman who seemed to know me. And a few weeks later I saw you. You saw me? Ethan was genuinely surprised. Where? At the downtown bookstore. You were leaving as I was entering. Our eyes met for a second, and then you practically ran to the street. Claire paused. That's why I decided to move a few months later. I thought maybe you were following me. Ethan shook his head, stunned by the revelation. I wasn't following you, Claire. I was gathering courage. Courage. To talk to you, he explained. I came back to the city 3 years ago when my mother got sick, and when I saw you for the first time by chance in a cafe with Liam, he swallowed hard. I instantly knew he was my child, our child. Claire stared at him, surprised. You knew about Liam? 3 years ago? Ethan nodded, ashamed. I wanted to approach you, explain, apologize, but then I saw how happy you looked, independent. You had built a life without me. What right did I have to show up and disrupt it? He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit Claire recalled well, so I decided to help from afar. The rent, some anonymous donations to Liam's school, little things I thought might make your life a bit easier. Claire absorbed this confession in silence, trying to reconcile this new information with the narrative she had built in her mind. Why didn't you tell me this before? She finally asked. Because it would have seemed manipulative, Ethan answered honestly. Like I was trying to buy my way back into your lives. I wanted you to accept me back for the right reasons, not out of gratitude or obligation. Another silence fell between them, heavier now, loaded with revelations and unexplored possibilities. If you knew about Liam 3 years ago, why only appear in our lives now? Claire asked, her voice soft. Because running into Liam in the park, hearing him talk about you, seeing his concern, it was like a slap in the face. I realized all my anonymous help meant nothing if I wasn't actually there. Ethan looked at her. Somewhere, I was still hiding, Claire. Still afraid. Afraid of rejection. Afraid I wouldn't be good enough as a father. Afraid of failing you again. The raw honesty in his voice touched something in Claire. For weeks, she had watched Ethan interact with Liam, seeing the patience, the care, the genuine joy he showed around the boy. She had seen how he rearranged his entire apartment for Liam while she was hospitalized, how he had covered all her medical expenses without hesitation, how he managed to juggle work and hospital visits. Those weren't the actions of someone trying to ease guilt or impress. They were the actions of someone who was committed. I don't know if I can fully trust you, Ethan, Claire admitted. Part of me still expects to wake up one day and find you gone again. That's understandable, he replied without defensiveness. I can't erase what I did. I can only prove, day after day, that I've changed, and hope that one day it'll be enough. Claire nodded, pondering his words. So what do we do now? Ethan took a deep breath as if preparing for a great leap. Now, you focus on getting better. I'll take care of Liam while you're here, and when you're discharged, we decide, together, how we move forward. Together, Claire repeated, testing the word. We tried that once, Ethan, it didn't work. We were different people then, he replied. I was different, he paused. But if you're not ready for together, we can just be partners, in raising Liam at least. Before Claire could respond, the room door opened and Liam ran in, holding a drawing. "Mom, look what I made," he exclaimed, handing her the colorful paper. "It's us." At our house, Claire looked at the drawing. 3 stick figures in front of a yellow house. A small figure in the middle, holding hands with 2 bigger figures, a woman with long hair and a man who seemed to be wearing a tie. "It's beautiful, my love," she said, swallowing the lump in her throat. "That's you, me, and Ethan," Liam explained, pointing to each figure. "At our new house, Ethan said that when you come home we can get a bigger place with a room just for me." Claire looked at Ethan, one eyebrow raised in silent question. "I just mentioned it might be good for you two to have more space," he clarified quickly, looking embarrassed. "I didn't mean... I wasn't trying." "It's okay," Claire interrupted, surprising herself with how calm she sounded. "We can talk about it when I get out." The relief on Ethan's face was visible. "Sure, no pressure." Claire turned her attention back to Liam's drawing, studying the 3 figures holding hands. That was how her son saw them, as a family. And maybe, just maybe, they could be exactly that. Not immediately, not without more proof that Ethan had truly changed. But for the first time since he reappeared in their lives, Claire allowed herself to consider the possibility. A future where she wasn't alone. A future where Liam had a present father. A future where, perhaps, she could trust again. "When can I go home, Mom?" Liam asked, climbing onto the bed to snuggle against her. "Soon, my love," Claire answered, hugging him. "We'll all be home soon." And as she said that, her eyes met Ethan's, and something silent, something important, passed between them. Not a complete forgiveness, nor a promise of renewed love, but a beginning. A breaking point, not for pulling apart, but for starting to rebuild. Spring had arrived, bringing longer days and milder nights. 3 months had passed since Claire's hospitalization, and much had changed. Following medical recommendations, she reduced her workload plans, working from home 3 days a week. Her health, though still fragile, had stabilized under the new medication regimen. Ethan had kept his promise, present at every doctor's appointment, every difficult moment, not just with financial support, which he offered discreetly, respecting Claire's pride, but with his constant, reliable presence. The bigger apartment they had discussed at the hospital became a reality. A comfortable place in a building with an elevator, close to the park and Liam's school. Claire insisted on paying the rent, striking a deal with Ethan. He would cover medical expenses, and she would handle the home. It was a delicate balance, but it worked. On that Friday night, Liam had been invited to his first sleepover at a friend's house. Claire was nervous about the idea, but Ethan convinced her it would be good for the boy to have the experience of independence. "Are you sure he'll be okay?" Claire asked for the 3rd time as Ethan returned from dropping Liam off at his friend's house. "Absolutely," he replied with a calm smile, hanging his coat on the entry rack. "Thomas's parents seem responsible, and Liam was so excited he barely said goodbye to us, remember?" Claire sighed, sitting on the living room couch. "I know I'm being overprotective. It's just, we've never spent a night apart before." Ethan sat next to her, keeping a respectful distance. "It's natural to worry, but it's also natural to let him grow up a little." He smiled. "Besides, you deserve a night off." It was strange being alone in the apartment. Usually, Liam was the center of their interactions, the reason for their conversations, the source of their shared smiles. Without him, there was a new silence between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. "Want to watch a movie?" Ethan suggested, trying to fill the emptiness. "Or we can order dinner." Claire smiled, grateful for his attempt. "A movie sounds nice, and we have food in the fridge. I can fix something simple." "I'll help," Ethan offered immediately. In the kitchen, they worked side by side, preparing a simple meal. Claire chopped vegetables while Ethan made the sauce for the pasta. There was a comfortable familiarity in their movements, as if they had done it together hundreds of times before. "How was work today?" Claire asked, more to keep the conversation flowing than out of real curiosity. Ethan hesitated briefly before replying, "Actually, I have news. I signed the final papers for the foundation today." Claire stopped what she was doing, turning to him with genuine interest. "The foundation? You never mentioned it. Ethan wiped his hands on a dish towel, suddenly looking nervous. It's a project I've been planning for a few months, a foundation to support single mothers and their children. Financial aid for education, healthcare assistance, job opportunities. Claire stared at him, surprised by the scope of the idea. Wow, that's amazing. Where did that idea come from? Ethan looked at her directly, his voice soft but firm. From you, Claire. From your strength. From your struggle. Seeing what you went through to raise Liam on your own. Claire looked away, feeling a rush of emotion she hadn't expected. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he continued. I just wanted you to know I donated half of my shares in the company to fund the foundation. It's a permanent commitment. Half your shares? Claire couldn't hide her shock. Ethan, that must be worth a substantial fortune, yes, he completed, not sounding regretful. But it's the right kind of investment. The money will make a difference in the lives of many families like yours, families who were left behind. The implication of his words hung between them. Claire felt a knot in her throat. This wasn't a gesture to impress or buy forgiveness. It was Ethan turning his regret into something concrete, something that would help real people. That's very noble, she said finally. Ethan shook his head. It's not nobility, Claire. It's responsibility. It's understanding that I have more than I need, while others struggle for basic necessities. He paused. And maybe it's a form of redemption too. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Then they sat on the couch to watch the movie, maintaining that careful distance that had become characteristic of their relationship. The movie was a light romantic comedy, chosen more for its familiarity than real interest. As the scenes played on the screen, Claire found herself watching Ethan out of the corner of her eye. The way his profile looked in the soft glow of the TV, how he actually laughed at the funny parts, genuinely entertained. He was the same man who had abandoned her years ago, yet he wasn't. This Ethan carried a weight on his shoulders, an awareness the other hadn't possessed. This Ethan understood the value of the things that truly mattered. What are you thinking? He asked suddenly, catching her in the act of observing him. Claire felt her cheeks warm. About how things change, she answered honestly. About how people change. Ethan studied her face for a moment. For the better, I hope. Yes, she admitted. For the better. Something shifted in the air between them. The movie continued, forgotten, while a more important conversation took shape. Claire, Ethan began, turning off the TV in a decisive move. There's something I need to say. Something I've been trying to find the right words for weeks. Claire's heart raced, recognizing the seriousness in his voice. What is it? Ethan took a deep breath, summoning courage. I never stopped loving you. The words hung in the air between them, simple and devastating. Claire felt as if time had stopped. I know it's probably not what you want to hear, he continued when she didn't speak. And I understand if you don't feel the same. I just needed you to know. That what I felt for you never went away, even when I was stupid enough to leave. Claire remained motionless, the words lodged in her throat. These last few months, seeing you with Liam, seeing the family you built without me. Ethan swallowed. I realized I don't want to live without you two anymore. I can't imagine my life without waking up to Saturday morning cartoons, without bedtime stories, without little debates over which cereal to buy. He gave a sad smile. I know I have no right to ask for anything. I know you have every reason not to trust me, but I need you to know I'm here fully. And I'm not going anywhere. Claire finally found her voice, though it was shaky. Ethan, You don't have to answer now, he cut in gently. I'm not asking for an immediate response. I just wanted to be honest about how I feel. The silence fell again, but it was different this time, denser, weighted with possibilities. Claire could almost hear her own heartbeat. I think I need some time to process this, she said finally. Ethan nodded, understanding. Of course, I understand. He stood, preparing to leave. You don't have to go, Claire said, surprising them both. The movie's not over. A small smile appeared on Ethan's face as he sat back down. True. We still need to find out if she ends up with the arrogant architect or the kindergarten teacher. My money's on the teacher, Claire said, feeling the tension ease a bit. They finished watching the movie, more aware of each other than before, yet somehow more comfortable. When the credits rolled, Ethan got up to go, this time without argument. "Good night, Claire," he said softly at the door, "and thank you." "For what?" "For not throwing me out after my confession," he replied with a small smile. "See you tomorrow at Thomas's birthday party?" "At 2, she confirmed. "Don't be late." "Never again," he promised, and they both knew he was talking about more than just punctuality. After Ethan left, Claire stayed up for hours, replaying the conversation in her mind. His words echoed, "I never stopped loving you." Part of her wanted to believe, to dive in head first at the possibility. But another part, the part that still bore the scars of abandonment, whispered warnings. Could she trust again? Could they build something new on the ruins of what was destroyed? The next morning, Claire woke with a clarity she hadn't felt in a long time. She picked up her phone and, before she could change her mind, typed a message to Ethan. "Can we talk tonight? After we pick up Liam, there's something I need to tell you too." The reply came almost immediately. "Of course. I'll be there." The day passed slowly, each hour dragging as Claire organized her thoughts and feelings. At the birthday party, she and Ethan maintained a facade of normality, smiling and chatting with other parents while watching Liam play with his friends, but there was an underlying tension between them, an acute awareness that something important was coming. When they finally got home, Liam was exhausted from the party and the previous sleepover. He fell asleep almost immediately after his bath, leaving Claire and Ethan alone once again. They sat on the balcony of the new apartment, watching the city lights come on as dusk settled. "So," Ethan began, nervous, "you wanted to tell me something." Claire took a deep breath, gathering courage. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about the past, the present, the future." Ethan nodded, waiting patiently for her to continue. "When you showed up in our lives again, my first instinct was to push you away, protect Liam, protect myself." She paused. "But things have changed these past few months. You've changed. Or maybe you were always like this and I just never saw it fully." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, confused. "The man I knew years ago was charming, brilliant, ambitious, but he was also scared, insecure about commitment." Claire looked at him directly. "The man I see now is solid, present, not just in the easy moments, but especially in the hard ones." Ethan seemed lost for words, his eyes fixed on her. "What I'm trying to say, Ethan, is that I also never stopped loving you. I tried. God knows I tried. But there's something about you that always stayed with me." Now it was Ethan's turn to fall silent, taking in her words. "But I'm scared," Claire admitted. "Not just for me, but for Liam. He's already so attached to you. If we decide to try again and it doesn't work—" "It will work," Ethan interrupted, his voice firm, "not because we're perfect or because everything will be easy, but because this time we're going into it with eyes open, knowing our flaws and insecurities." He reached out and gently took her hand. "And because this time, I'm not looking for a way out. I'm looking for a way in, deeper, more permanent." Claire looked at their joined hands, feeling a certainty she hadn't expected. "Let's go slow," she said. "One step at a time." "Take all the time you need," Ethan agreed, his face lit with a smile she hadn't seen in years. "I'm not in a hurry." That night, he didn't kiss her, didn't make any grand promises. He simply held her hand as they looked at the stars, talking about small and important things. When they finally said goodnight, there was a new understanding between them, a new beginning. In the weeks that followed, they settled into a different rhythm. They were no longer just two adults co-parenting Liam, but a couple slowly rediscovering each other. Dinners after Liam fell asleep, long phone calls on the nights Ethan wasn't there, small gestures that spoke of a deeper care than words could convey. The foundation Ethan had created was officially launched, with Claire surprisingly agreeing to serve on the board. Who better to understand what these women need than someone who's been in the same situation, he argued. And Claire found she enjoyed the work, using her experiences to help other women, creating programs that truly made a difference. It was a way to turn her own pain into something constructive. As for Ethan, he rearranged his professional life to be more present. He cut back his work hours, delegated more responsibilities, prioritized what truly mattered. His colleagues noticed the change, commenting on how he seemed more centered, more fulfilled. On a Sunday afternoon, nearly 6 months after the night Ethan confessed his feelings, they took Liam to the park where it all began. It was a perfect summer day, with a bright blue sky and a gentle breeze rustling the leaves of the trees. Claire sat on a bench, watching Ethan help Liam fly a kite. The boy burst into laughter every time the kite went higher, and Ethan looked as proud as if he'd just closed the biggest deal of his career. There was something so right about that scene that Claire felt her heart tighten. This was the kind of moment she had dreamed of for Liam, to have a father to teach him things, to laugh with him, to simply be there. When they finally managed to keep the kite in the air, Liam ran over to her, his cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mom, did you see? It's so high I can barely see it." "I did, my love," Claire replied with a smile. "You two did a great job." Liam turned to Ethan, who was walking over more slowly. "Can we show Mom the other present?" Liam asked excitedly. Ethan smiled and nodded. "Sure, champ. Go grab it from the backpack." Liam ran to the backpack by the bench and pulled out a small blue toy car, almost identical to the one he'd tried to sell Ethan months before. "Look, Mom," he exclaimed, showing off the toy. "It's just like my old car." Claire looked from Liam to Ethan, puzzled. "It's an early birthday gift," Ethan explained, "to replace the one he almost sold for your sake." Liam, with the impulsiveness of a child, suddenly ran up to Ethan, holding the blue car out in front of him. "Mister, do you want to buy another car?" he asked, repeating the same question from months ago. But this time with a mischievous grin, clearly understanding he was reenacting that first encounter. Ethan laughed and knelt beside him, his eyes shining with affection. "No, this time I just want to play with you." The simplicity of that answer, the purity of its intention, made something inside Claire give way. Any lingering defenses, any tiny bit of reservation still left. Liam ran off to show the car to another boy playing nearby, leaving Claire and Ethan alone on the bench. "You really have changed," she said softly, almost to herself. "For the better, I hope," Ethan replied, echoing the conversation from that night months ago. "Definitely for the better." Claire glanced at Liam playing in the distance, then back at Ethan. "You know, I've been thinking, maybe it's time we stop taking things so slow." Ethan raised his eyebrows, surprised. "What did you have in mind?" Claire smiled, a smile free of fear or hesitation. "I think it's time we become a real family, not just for Liam, but for us." Ethan seemed momentarily speechless, his eyes filling with an emotion he didn't try to hide. "Are you sure?" he asked at last, his voice rough. "After everything?" "I'm sure," Claire interrupted. "I've spent years focusing on the past, on what we lost, on what could have been. But now all I can think about is the future, what we can build together." Without further words, Ethan leaned in and kissed her. It was a gentle kiss, almost reverent, as if she were something precious he was afraid to break. When they pulled away, both were smiling. "Finally!" Liam yelled from where he stood, having apparently witnessed the moment. He ran over and threw himself between them, hugging them both. "Does that mean Ethan's staying forever?" Claire looked at Ethan, seeing her own certainty reflected in his eyes. "Yes, my love," she answered, without looking away from Ethan. "He's staying forever." As Liam celebrated with excited jumps, Claire let herself sink into the moment. The sun shining above them, the sound of her son's laughter, Ethan's solid, reassuring presence by her side. For the first time in years, she felt she was exactly where she needed to be. Not just existing, surviving day by day, but truly living, with all the complications and challenges that were sure to come. But this time, she wouldn't face anything alone. This time, there were 3 of them, a family finally complete.